the one thing that makes your branch different than any other branch or any other loan officer? You guys remember me talking about that?
I don't.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. There's no set agenda on these calls for me. And I have about 15 of these calls a week. So sometimes they all kind of blend in together, but I don't ever want to skip anything. So I'll always ask you if you guys remember me saying something. If you don't, it's okay. So the one thing that I believe that my business or even your business has that makes you and I different from everybody else really boils down to one thing. And Jeff could attest to this. The only thing that makes Jeff's business different than any other shop in the Grand Blanc area is how Jeff presents himself. And it's how you guys present yourselves. And if you really want to get to the specifics of it, it really boils down to what you guys say that comes out of your mouth is the only thing that makes you different than any other shop in the market. You can compare rates, you can compare fees, but in the reality of life, consumers don't purchase and decide to work with loan officers simply based on rate. It's an answer that has to be addressed. Fees have to be talked about, but a consumer's decision to work with you has very little to do with anything other than what you say and how you present yourself. So in other words, when you're talking to your clients, when you're on the phone talking to either your realtors or your clients, so let's just assume that to be your audience, we have to be very, very clear on what we say and very convicted on what we say, because the consumer is judging us for everything that comes out of our mouth. Because in all fairness, the consumer doesn't know what they don't know. Most consumers have never been through the home buying process as many times as we've gone through it. So their analysis of our job is predicated to the experiences that the people around them have had. It's predicated on the experience that they've gone through maybe once in the last 5 to 10 years. And frankly, it's based on whatever the media pushes onto them. Can you guys all agree to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we choose to make it all about the fees and all about the rates, the consumer is more than happy to oblige us in that. If all we care about is just the transaction, the consumer believes that that's all that's necessary. I'm here to tell you that the reason Jeff's business is so successful and the reason you guys are there is because of the model that he's built is not rate sensitive. It's not fee sensitive. It's built around a value system and a value proposition that Jeff has been able to articulate over the last several years. And people believe that he cares and he's willing to do more than any other shop that's out there. Would you guys agree to that? Would you guys agree that that's probably one of the reasons that his business is so successful?
150%.
It's an amazing aha moment to come to when you realize that our job, first and foremost, is not to be a salesperson and to disseminate information. That's not our role in this at all. Both of you guys fulfill a very specific need in the team and in the process, and our goal is to basically amplify, and I'll say that again, amplify the relationship that Jeff has spent years creating to either get the consumer in the door or to get that realtor or other affiliated relationship to refer the client that's coming through the door. Our number one priority should not be just to disseminate information and to sell them on things. Because the truth is that most consumers aren't interested in how this whole process works. They really want to just align themselves with somebody who cares about what they care about, who believes in what they believe. That's why our number one role in everything we do needs to be centered on what I call amplifying relationships. And so what do I mean by that? And the amplification of a relationship is really simple. When I talk to people, so let's use you guys as an example. My goal every time I pick up the phone and talk to you is to provide you with such a high level of value and such good information that you guys feel compelled to want to go back to Jeff and say thank you. That establishes what I call the triangle of trust. It's a business mindset that I built my mortgage practice around, and it simply put, it puts Jeff's relationship with you guys at the forefront of everything that I'm doing every single day. So every week when I pick up the phone and we get on these calls together, my number one responsibility to you guys is to provide you with such great content and such great information that you guys hang up the phone and go, oh, Jeff, thank you so much. Those calls are fantastic. They help me out a ton. What happens there is what most of us fail to recognize in our businesses. And it's rampant across every business. But let's just isolate it to just ours. You guys going back to Jeff and saying thank you does what to Jeff? What do you think Jeff feels like when he hears thank you from you guys?
Well, I mean,
Well,
like
John
his,
feels, go ahead, Steve, sorry.
I was just going to say, like his interest and time wasn't wasted on this. Like he's grateful as well in return back to you probably.
He feels validated, right? He feels like he's listening to what your wants and needs are. He feels good that he was able to help solve a problem and improve your opportunities in business. So he feels he probably feels very validated and very appreciative, right?
Yes.
That's a powerful feeling. Have either of you guys ever had that happen in your life where you recommend something or you guys give somebody advice and they come back to you and go, oh, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened?
Yeah.
Yep.
What does that feel like at the moment you hear the word thank you from somebody after they took your advice?
I mean, it makes me feel, warm and fuzzy. Like, I'm glad that
Yeah.
I was able to help somebody and they appreciated it in return.
Okay. So it's fair to say that that's a really good feeling, correct?
Yeah.
If you could create that situation for every person that you talk to on a daily basis, that would probably mean that you're A, doing a really good job, and B, probably helps amplify the business that Epic Mortgage has built. If you guys talk to 5 people every day and that was your goal, and that was your purpose for picking up the phone every single time, and you got that, wow, that's awesome, I appreciate it, and you got that person to go back to whomever the referral source was or however they got directed to you, that's a pretty big deal in the sense that that means that you guys are expanding your brand through amplifying relationships. So back to the point. So Jeff's relationship with you two gets amplified. You go to him and say thank you, that relationship is stronger because of it. There's no question that you guys have a newfound respect for him, and he's got a great sense of appreciation for what you guys are gaining in knowledge. So your part of the process is amplified. The beauty of it is that if I get you to do that, that means that my relationship with you guys is significantly strong because you guys are listening to what I say, you guys are, you're buying into the message, and thus my relationship with you must be at a very high level because otherwise why would you go back to Jeff and say thank you? Fair?
Yep.
Fair.
So we've got the 2 sides of the triangle completed simply by doing one thing, and that is understanding what your wants, goals, and needs are and speaking to that and addressing that and making it abundantly clear that my role in doing this for you guys is to help you get better at your craft, make it more valuable for you when you speak to people, but also to have you feel so compelled that you want to go back to Jeff and say thank you. So by doing that, I've created a very strong 2-sided relationship, mine to you and you to Jeff. Now here's the powerful part of it that everybody seems to overlook. What happens between my relationship with Jeff? Do you think Jeff calls me up and says, wow, Doug, thank you?
I'm sure he does.
What does that do for my relationship with Jeff?
Strengthens.
Right. Therein lies the secret to the triangle of trust. Therein lies the secret to business through human relationships. If I do right by you guys, and I do right by what Jeff believes that I'm capable of doing, and I do it with honesty, with integrity, with character, and I really spend the time investing myself into what you guys need, want, and desire, the byproduct naturally is Jeff's willingness to go, dog, man, that's awesome. Thank you so much. My response to Jeff is, the next time that you run into a loan officer or a part of your team that needs help, I would be honored at a chance to be able to work with them. What do you think Jeff turns around and does?
Does just that.
Okay. That process happens every single time. I'm sorry, it doesn't. You have the power to invoke that process every single time you communicate with a person, whether it's a realtor, whether it's a consumer, or any other referral or relationship entity that you guys work with. If you're seeking to amplify the Epic Mortgage brand and your job is to carry that torch, the only way that you're going to be successful in accomplishing that is understanding the difference between the reason you talk to people and the purpose you talk to people. The reality of what I'm getting at kind of parlays from what we talked about last week. We do such a great job every single day at our jobs that we hear thank yous and it tends to just get lost in translation. Like this week alone, from this time last week until now, how many times did you guys hear the word thank you? I mean, did it start to resonate with you differently now? Did you guys hear that enough?
Yes.
It did, and I used your statement back a couple of times.
And how did it feel? A little awkward?
It was, because it's
Yep.
kind of a lot to say. It's a mouthful until I
Yep.
get used to it, but
Yep. Do you know why it's a mouthful?
because I'm not used to saying it.
Exactly right. And you know why we don't say it?
Because we're not looking at the bigger picture.
We are more interested in the task and we're more interested in the transaction than we are about the relationship. And here's the reason why this is not only fundamental, but this is the reason why businesses don't last, is because when you get caught up in doing the tasks of our job every single day, we get really burnt out because we don't get any validation. We don't get any appreciation. We hear it, but we really don't recognize it. And the point of that is that when you get involved in your business and you recognize the value that you're bringing, those are the moments in which you can stand up and go, I heard the word thank you or some sort of an appreciative statement. That means I'm doing a really good job. That means that I've given something to somebody that they appreciate it. Instead of simply politely closing the door and saying no problem, the response then falls into how can I amplify the relationship, or in other words, instead of the reason just being to disseminate information, the purpose is to help expand the brand of Epic Mortgage. And the only way to do that is either spend a ton of money on marketing and advertising or use the relationships that are currently in front of you and maximize them to the fullest. So as an example, I have 700 plus people on my Facebook page that like me, that I would consider people I know. But I believe in my heart that there's probably about 15 people in my life that I truly care about. Can you guys all agree to that?
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to people, I'm acutely aware of how many people each person on average knows, 10 to 15. So if you guys have 20 people in the active process, and every one of them knows 15 people, that means that you have a chance to talk to 300. You have a chance to expand your brand to 300 people by having 20 conversations. If you do the math. The question is if you had 20 people agreeing that they would go back to somebody and say thank you, or agree to tell somebody else about you, how long would it be before your business explodes?
Not long at all.
Okay, so why are we not doing it? Like, what's the reason why you guys aren't, what's the reason why you guys aren't capitalizing on those conversations?
Like you said, just task focused.
Okay. Some of it's just the commonplace business that everybody, you know, believes in. It's the tit for the tat. It's just very transactional. It's come in, do our job, and then leave. A lot of it has to do with nobody's ever taught us how to talk like this or be able to capitalize on that. Nobody's ever explained it to help us word it in our way. But do you guys see how and when and why this would be valuable in the roles that you guys are performing for Jeff?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's going to be valuable? Mandy, for you, I mean, what is it? I mean, I don't know exactly your role, but I believe that you spend some time on the phone talking to either realtors or clients.
Yeah. I think it just, well, one, it'll, you know, help grow the business, but two, it creates trust between you and the realtors. It gives, it, like you're saying, the circle of trust. You build that trust, you get more referrals, you grow the business, keeps my paycheck, keeps me employed.
Well, let me ask you guys this question. Would you rather get a phone call from somebody who found your name in the yellow pages or on an ad, or would you rather get a phone call from somebody that said, my best friend used you and said you guys were the best?
Referral.
Referral. Do you think there's a realtor out there that would prefer to work with leads, or do you think that there's a realtor out there that would prefer to do business with referrals?
I would say most of them want to do referrals.
I would say every realtor would prefer to get a referral than a lead. Everyone. So if our audience is, for example, the realtor, and they give us an opportunity to work with one of their clients, and you guys did such a great job with that client that you got, and I'm not saying accidentally, but you conditioned that client that if you delivered on what you say you were going to, and you helped them in a way that they were looking for, if they went back to that realtor and said thank you, what do you think that realtor's relationship with you guys does? It's amplified, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, immensely.
How cool is the realtor going to feel every time they pick up the phone and there's a client going, hey, I just spoke to Mandy and Steve and Jeff over at Epic. These guys are awesome. Thank you so much for putting me in touch with them. I love them. What happens with that realtor the next time they have a referral for a loan officer? Who are they going to think of?
Too.
Us.
Who do you think is going to be top of mind every time they have a conversation with a client?
Us.
Who do you think is going to break through that barrier as a loan officer to start getting that realtor's business?
Yeah, us. We will.
Well, no, after you guys get the business, there's no loan officer that's going to come in there and go, well, here's the product, here are the rates, here are the fees. Here's what's commonplace when loan officers lean on realtors. They sell product. They're salespeople, but they don't speak to the true needs of what a realtor is looking for. So it insulates you against anybody else who's trying to take that business away from you because you're providing them something that nobody else can. At least you're providing them something that nobody else can speak on. It goes back to the words that come out of your mouth. The only thing that makes you different than anybody else is what you say. And if you say to a client, your value is in you, Mr. Client, going back to that realtor and saying thank you, and my job is to help find out what your goals, wants, and needs are, and my responsibility to you is to create a raving fan in you. These aren't words that you don't know. They're just organized in a way that makes you sound different, and it resonates differently with the realtor because they want a partnership with a loan officer who is going to help them accomplish what they can't, which is getting more referrals. So every time you guys pick up the phone, every time you guys dialogue via email, every time you guys enter into a conversation with somebody, it's not only just picking up on those moments that people say thank you, it's learning how to get them to the place where you know they're going to say thank you. I already know that when our call's over with today, you guys are going to feel like you got value. There's going to be a level of appreciation. And if I know that I can do that every time I talk to you, then undoubtedly my relationship with Jeff is amplified, and your relationship with Jeff is amplified. And if I do that with every person I talk to on a daily basis and I'm cognizant of that, undoubtedly your brand is going to expand. Undoubtedly your business is going to be amplified. And all you're doing is just talking about it differently than everybody else. Of course, you have to deliver on what you promise, but that goes without saying. Your gifts in this business aren't the fact that you guys know how to punch in information into a keyboard or dial a phone and to just just communicate information like values and conditions and things of that sort. Those are what everybody can do. The difference between you and everybody else is the value that you believe you possess, which is the understanding of how meaningful helping somebody else out and getting that thank you is to the growth of the business that Jeff has started. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like it.
It does.
So as you guys talk in your day to your realtors and your clients, it's one thing just to be able to pass information back and forth. But every time you pick up the phone, hearing the word thank you from somebody, yes, it's going to be awkward to say thanks for noticing. Jeff and I spend a lot of time making sure that this process is handled at the highest level for you. Please don't keep us a secret. That's not natural for people to say. But here's the truth in the numbers that I have experienced in my 20-year career. 20% of your clients will never refer you guys. There's just nothing you'll ever say or do that will ever get them to advocate you to the people they care about. It's just never going to happen. There's another 20% that will refer you just because that's who they are. You do a good job, they're going to tell everybody. They're like the social mavens of their network. They're the center of the social circle of all the people that they know. They're the ones that are on Facebook every 5 minutes or on Twitter and Instagram. I mean, these are the people that they're like a hot spot for their social life. But what's left over is the other 60%. The 60% of the people that you guys do business with every single day don't know you need help, but would gladly help you if they knew you needed it. Do you guys have enough business?
No, we always
not at
want
the
more.
moment, no.
Okay, not at the moment. Okay, not at the moment. There is a volume knob to the amount of business that you guys have access to. And based on how many times you're willing to engage in these conversations will determine whether or not your volume knob is turned up to 10 or turned down to 0. And it starts with the recognition of people saying thank you to you. See, if you tell enough people that you need their help, I think generally most people, 80% of them, would probably help you. Isn't that, wouldn't you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Well, I liken it to friends. So you have a group of friends in your life. If you guys moved and you didn't tell your friends that you were moving because you were afraid that they would feel obligated to help you move, and then you moved and you called them and said, hey, I just moved, you should come check out my new place. What do you think the response that you'd get from your friends would be?
Why don't you tell us?
Right, why wouldn't you tell us? I would have been more than happy to help. I would have been available for you. But it puts the relationship in a different perspective for them. Like, I thought you were a friend. I thought you could lean on me. The truth is that we don't believe that our clients are people we want to be friends with. I'm not saying sit down, have a beer and dinner and spend weekends together. That's not what I'm referring to. But our friends are people, and in their mind, are people that they think about. One of the posts that I put on the Band of Partners a couple of weeks back talked about, you know, people want to work with and would prefer to work with their family and friends because they believe that they share the same value system and that they have a history and they care about you. every one of the clients that I worked with, I always ended my initial consultation with, isn't it nice to know you have a friend in the business now? Because it made my team's job infinitely easier when they called up and said, hey, thanks for noticing. Doug and I really care about our friendship, and we want to help you guys get through this process as smoothly as possible because we're counting on you to refer us to the people you care about. Please don't keep us a secret. We're counting on you. That's an emotional connection that if you are doing your job and are getting you or giving you those thank yous and acknowledgments, by not asking, you politely close the door on 60% of the possibilities that are staring at you in the face. That's a daunting reality for how many people that have said thank you to you that you just simply said, my pleasure.
That's huge.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
The power in what I'm teaching you is so subtle. It's not a sales tactic. This isn't a gimmick. This is the same thing that we would want if we were in the other seat. I promise you that if you were on the receiving end of this and the person that you were talking to was speaking to you like this, I'd be hard-pressed to say that you would want to go anyplace else if the product or process that you were purchasing was competitive. Not the cheapest, but competitive. There's a whole lot of science behind what I'm saying, and over time we'll talk about it, but right now, the impact of not having those conversations and saying the words politely closes the door on a 60% growth opportunity. Because the people who you work with all want to help you, and that gets amplified every time they say every time they acknowledge you and appreciate you. Ask yourself how hard it is to say thanks for noticing. We count on you to refer us to the people you care about. And then ask yourself how hard is it to look at your pipeline and go, we could do so much more. Which is harder? Does that make sense?
It does.
Kind of an eye-opener a little bit, isn't it?
Yes.
So now you sit down and ask yourself, well, why would I say it this way? Well, I want to help the business grow. But ask yourself, is there any other lender in the market that you guys are in that you think thinks, believes, and acts like this? I'm going to tell you there's zero. Not a single one. You want a value proposition that no other lender out there can compete against? You want to amplify the relationship between Jeff and the realtors and Jeff and the market and you and your agents and your clients and your friends? Make the triangle of trust the focus of every conversation that you guys have every time you pick up the phone. You call them for a reason, but you end the call with a purpose. I'm calling to tell you that your appraisal came in, Mr. Johnson. Good news. Value came in at sales price. We're so happy for you. Oh, God, that's such a relief. Thank you so much for calling. Hey, Mr. Johnson, thanks for noticing that. We really take a lot of pride and work really hard to make sure you know how much we care about you and the process you're going in, because it's not easy. And we have a lot of people that we talk to every day, but it means the world to us that you recognize that. You know, can you promise us that you're not going to keep us a secret? We'd love to work with somebody in your life that you care about, because we'd love to give them a chance to come back to you and say thank you. How hard of a conversation is that when you come from a place of genuineness and understanding of what people are really after?
I don't know.
Mandy, do you think that's hard?
No.
You'd be uncomfortable?
I don't think uncomfortable. I think just getting in the habit. You know what I mean? I don't think it's uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Do you think the person on the other end of the phone feels uncomfortable?
No, because they shouldn't be expecting, they don't expect just a, you know, I would say no.
Most people take that and go, wow, that's right. And they, at that moment, when you hear the word thank you, that is the most opportunistic time that you can get somebody to make a emotional commitment to you to help you out. That's when they're the most receptive, because you've done something for them, they've acknowledged it, you can respond with, hey, I appreciate you noticing, can you do me a favor now? But we have to make sure that we realize it's not a favor. You're not asking people for favors. You're doing a job for them at a high enough level where they say thank you to you. You are entitled to ask them for help. You are entitled to get them to make a commitment to you. You guys are taking people through probably one of the most stressful processes in life. And most of the time, the process doesn't go smoothly. But you guys probably do an amazing job at providing a high level of service and a great level of communication that people are appreciative of. Can I get a high five on that? Is that yes?
Amen.
All right. So why then are we not compelled to want to ask our clients for help? I don't want the word, can you do me a favor? That's a weak conversation. That means that you're asking them to go out of their way. The truth is, you don't hear your clients calling you up and go, okay, can you do me a favor? Can you call me, or can you do this for me? You're like, it's not a favor. I'd be glad to do it. That's my job. That's what I'm here to help you with. That's why you're working with us. It's not a favor. This is just part of the process. That's the same conversation we have to have in our heads about our clients. Our clients are getting the best possible process, the best possible product for what their needs are, and we believe that we're not elevated enough to ask them for help. And I think it's just I think it's a very limiting mindset. That's my 2 cents, guys.
I like it.
Was this valuable at all?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So if I asked you guys to go back to Jeff and say you got a lot out of the call today and thank him, would you guys be willing to do that?
I will do that,
For sure.
yes.
See how easy it is? Seriously. I don't even have to sell you guys on doing it. You guys feel, you absolutely will. You guys can get anybody to do that. People want to tell other people about great news. If I can get you guys to do it, and you guys right now feel like I don't have to push you to do it, I just asked if you would, and you guys said, absolutely, for sure. Why then can we not ask our clients every single time? It's easy. It just, like you said, Mandy, it has to be intentional. You have to believe that your reason is not to disseminate information. That's your reason. The purpose of every time you communicate with somebody is to seek out that opportunity to have that conversation. If you guys have that conversation 20 times a week, what do you think is going to happen with your business?
Well, it's going to grow, certainly.
And it's going to grow with people you want to work with, right? You're going to work with people who already like you, who know you, who trust you. So people calling up and going, hey, I need help with a mortgage, and I was told that you were the best, or I heard Mandy was awesome, or I heard that Jeff was the best, or I heard that Steve was awesome. I mean, at that point, all you're doing is filling the shoes of what somebody else has said about you, and it becomes so much more fulfilling. It doesn't happen overnight, but with the volume of business that you guys do already, every time you hang up the phone, and you don't capitalize on that conversation, it puts you one more call behind, and you have to then find another way to orchestrate that thank you to be able to have that conversation. You're having them naturally anyway. You guys are getting thank yous and appreciation statements all the time. Just capitalize on them. That's your best and highest use of your time, because the rest of the stuff is what everybody else in the industry does. That's nothing special. And you guys are. Okay? All right, I record.